Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. There's been some controversial issues raised in Australia in relation to anti-Semitism, a recurring theme, regretfully. And I guess one of my issues is, why do we propagate such hate towards minorities, towards religious groups, towards ethnicity, towards gender? And why do we continue that hate? It's bewildered me for a long, long time. But part of this stuff has come about, and hold on. So most of this stuff has been in play for centuries, but it gets emphasised. It gets fuel is thrown on the flame through people like Elon Musk. And Elon Musk did something the other day which bewilders me, to be quite honest. And I'd be curious to know what you think specifically in relation to this. So I'm going to just play the video. I'm in two minds over what all of this means, but I'll be interested to know what you think Elon meant by this as well. And I'll tell you why I'm in two minds just at the moment once you've watched the video.
There are elections that come and go. Some elections are, important. Some are not. But this one, this one really matters. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you.
So that's Elon doing his salute. Now, there's a number of issues, obviously, around all of this. Number one is, did he actually mean it to be a Nazi salute? And if he didn't have the connections with the right wing in the US, and particularly some Nazi group or a Nazi group or the right wing in Germany, most people would have thought, maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was about his heartfelt thank you for helping Trump get elected, because that means that he doesn't have to worry about all the red tape that he would have to. It will save him billions and billions of dollars, made him millions and millions of dollars anyway. So thank you, audience. Thank you, American people, for electing Trump, because it saved me lots of money. So that's certainly one reason. The other could be that he was making an effort to acknowledge the right wing. And consequently, the right wing in the United States have done just that. The Nazis, the anti-Semites, have decided that he was signalling to them that he is a supporter of them and a hater of Jewish people. Now, I would expect that if I or you had made a sign or a signal, a virtual signal to people that they took what you think is the wrong way, then you would come out and you would say, look, I didn't mean that. I apologise to the people that it offended, but I didn't mean that. Now, to this point, haven't heard from Musk, and if you have heard something from him, let me know. I'd be most interested to find out what that is. But he hasn't offered any real apology at this point for any of this. So I would be interested to know what you think in relation to this. But it has raised issues in Australia in particular, because anti-Semitism, unfortunately, is on the rise in this country. And some of the people fueling this are people like Peter Dutton. And this is where I find it extremely sad, is when you find politicians using hate speech or whatever as a cudgel, as a tool to beat on their opposition. It should never be used that way. It should be about developing good policy. One would think there'd be an opportunity here for bipartisanship around this issue, rather than blaming one side for this becoming the issue that it is. And it's just one final thing I want to say about Elon Musk, before I get into this thing with Peter Dutton, is James O'Brien on LBC yesterday raised a really interesting point. If you think that doing that signal is not anti-Semitic, try doing it in Germany and see what happens, because they've outlawed that. In Victoria, here in Australia, they've also outlawed any reference to Nazism, including the salute. You could get locked up for that. And rightfully so, I hasten to add. I couldn't agree more. But, and if Brian also mentioned that, if you really think this is going to work and that it's okay to do it, try doing it in the workplace and see what happens. Because there will be a lot of people who will object and you will feel their wrath, I can assure you. But getting back to, I just need to put that in there, but getting back to Dutton, what's interested me about him is that they're starting to use this anti-Semitism as a wedge between the Liberal Party and the Labor Party. And for many, many years, as I'll demonstrate in just a moment, this has been, in terms of hate speech, it's been a bipartisan issue. Some people, particularly on the right of politics, would object to too much control over what people say or whatever. But when it gets into aggressive hate speech, then that basically in this country has been outlawed, already done. I'll show you some stuff about that in just a moment. But in the interim, I'll show you what... so Dutton was out talking about all of this today, saying that Albanese has let anti-Semitism fester in this country. Well, anti-Semitism, as I said earlier, has been around for hundreds of years, thousands of years maybe. And how we can control people's behaviour around this is nebulous, to say the least, because how do you control people from writing nasty anti-Semitic signs on schools and on businesses and on government offices? You can't stop people. You can arrest them once they've done it. But those people who are out there, the haters, the Christian nationalists, the white supremacists, they're there. We can't outlaw them, but it is those groups who will behave in ways which is going to express their hateful beliefs and thoughts about other people. And they will put up signs, and they will go to rallies, and they will fight, and they'll do all the terrible things that they do in the United States in particular. And but there's nothing that you can do apart from punish them once they've acted in that behaviour. Can you outlaw them? Can you make them a terrorist gang, for example, so that you can arrest them? Well, I guess that's probably unrealistic, because how do you prove that those people were terrorist gangs and plan to do whatever it is that they finally do? But they do harm people. They harm people psychologically. Now they're making statements. Politicians make statements. Well, when is someone going to get killed around all this? And certainly we don't need to wait until someone gets killed. But the question is, what more can we do apart from what is already being done? And I'll just play you Albanese's take on this, and also just a quick snippet of a Sky News report on a school, a kindergarten actually, that was defaced just the other day. So here's my friend, my buddy, Peter, talking about it.
Yesterday said the opposition and the government need to join together.
Yes.
Will you heed those calls for a more bipartisan approach?
If that means doing nothing, like the Prime Minister is proposing, no, it's not something that we would agree to. If it means, as the...
I don't know what he means by doing nothing that the Prime Minister is proposing, because apparently he did hold a national meeting with the other premiers in order to discuss this particular issue. But Dutton isn't offering, I don't think, anything substantive in terms of what actually should be done. They perhaps should get their heads together, both of them, and talk about what it is that each party would do, and then perhaps at some place in the middle they could make a decision.
Jewish leaders asked for yesterday that there be a bipartisan position in relation to the proposals that we've put forward, then yes, I do want a bipartisan position. But I don't think the Prime Minister is going to arrive at that position. Why? Because...
What? I don't understand that. So now he's saying he wants a bipartisan position, but doesn't believe that the Prime Minister is going to be bipartisan. I don't know. It's beyond belief. Well, what exactly say? I mean, any opportunity to criticise Albanese he will take, even if Albanese came to him with a hat in hand saying, look, we need to resolve this together, what do you think? He would still criticise him for it.
I think he's hung a big part of the community out to dry because you've got votes that they're chasing from inner city seats, from Greens and in Western Sydney. That's the Prime Minister's motivation here. It's why they've taken a position to oppose salmon farming in Tasmania, because they're chasing Green votes. And I think the modern Labor Party has forgot about the Australian worker, forgot about battling family.
I think this is laughable, given the way these guys would punish working class people and people on benefits if given half the chance. They've already been terrible at that. They're not progressive. They don't care about anything apart from their multi-million-dollar promoters or the gifts they get or the things that they can do for coal, for gas, for people like Reinhardt. That's what they're interested in. They're not interested in working class people. But they know that this needs to be a pitch that they need to make, because that's the only way they will ever win an election. So the only way they will ever win this election is actually for them to say, well, we need to look to working class people, and we need to suddenly discover that they exist, because the Labor Party will win if that's the case. And also, and I'm going to talk about this in some other post, but Albanese is not doing too bad in the polls right at the moment, and that's scaring someone like Peter Dutton. But I'll just take you to this other aspect, which is regrettably on Sky News, and I don't know who this interviewer is. She looks like she's 12. Won't hold that against her. I'm sure she's a fabulous, fabulous person, regardless of the fact that she's on Sky News. But she does ask a very leading question of the Jewish person she has to interview.
Returning now to one of our top stories in Sydney, where police are investigating another anti-Semitic attack, this time though at a daycare centre. Joining me live is CEO of the New South Wales Jewish Board of Deputies, the representative roof body for New South Wales Jewish community, Michelle Goldman. Michelle, thank you for your time. I wish it was under better circumstances that we'd be speaking. I mean, enough is enough, and it's only a matter of time before someone is really injured here or even killed. Do you have a message for the Prime Minister?
Yeah, look, we welcome the National Cabinet that has finally...
Right, a loaded question. Do you have a message to the Prime Minister? Well, that's fine. She probably does. And her comment is a simple one, I think, but not overly critical.
Been called this morning. We wish it had been done so earlier, but clearly there is an escalation in these incidences, and we need it to be the top priority at the moment to tackle this disturbing rise in anti-Semitism, this anti-Semitic crisis that we're facing, and a strong, coordinated process amongst all our government and law enforcement agencies will certainly help.
I mean, attacking a childcare centre is beyond belief here, the worst of the worst. What does that represent to you?
Yeah, it's just so sad and so disturbing. Innocent children who've really done nothing to harm anyone, who have no hate in their hearts. It's really pure evil to be attacking a childcare centre. So, I mean, we've seen synagogues firebombed, we've seen homes graffitied, we've seen cars defaced, but this just takes it to another level to be targeted.
And she's not wrong. It is sad, and it is regretful that it happens at all. But we need to keep in mind that this is really, strictly speaking, this is a bipartisan issue. This is an issue that all of us should be condemning. Not to condemn this behaviour means that you are buying into anti-Semitism. And the question really is, what can governments do? Now, there is there's a fair bit actually that has been said about this. I'll just try and enlarge that for you. I don't know if you can read it or not. But so there's the Racial Discrimination Act of 1975. It is so if you make a complaint to the Australian Human Rights Commission, action can be taken. 2002, the federal court applied the act to the case of Jones versus Tobin. The case involved a complaint about a website which contained material that just denied the Holocaust. The federal court ruled that the material was a violation of the Act. Sections 474.17 of the Criminal Code makes it an offence to use a carriage service such as the internet in a manner which reasonably persons would regard as menacing, harassing and offensive. And it goes on to the Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Bill of 2012. And it talks about here that in New South Wales in 1989, by an amendment to the Anti-Discrimination Act 1977, New South Wales became the first state to make it unlawful for a person, by a public act, to incite hatred towards, serious contempt of, or severe ridicule of a person or group or persons on the ground of the race of the person or members of the group. So, and each state tends to have its own description of what these acts actually mean, and Victoria is pretty harsh, I believe. So it isn't, to me, it isn't like governments haven't done, of all persuasions, haven't taken some action around this, because all governments find it abhorrent. What I disagree with is the way that it's been turned into some sort of political issue, simply because the timeline taken by Albanese isn't the timeline that Abbott wants. Sorry, not Abbott, heaven forbid, of what Dutton wants. So it is inevitable that this conversation will continue, but it should never be a conversation about just politics. So if you've got any views on anything that I've said, could you please subscribe to my channel, ring the bell for further notifications, and give me a sense as to what you think about all of these particular issues. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.